All right, Indiana falls 85-60 to Iowa at Carver Hawkeye Arena in Iowa City. I'm Jack Ankony with Indiana Hoosiers on SI, and we're going to try to switch things up with some post-game coverage. We're going to try to do these post-game reaction videos where we sort of talk for 5 or 10 minutes, kind of recap the game, share our thoughts on what the game means, in the immediate aftermath and moving forward. So, not a particularly enjoyable one for us to start the Indiana fans off with this post game reaction. But I think these will be a good way to kind of share our thoughts on more of a personal level with kind of how we're feeling about this team. So, like I said, Indiana loses 85-60 at Iowa. Really disappointing performance from Indiana, but one that's I guess not too surprising to me. Indiana entered the game. I think they were 5-point underdogs. It may have closed at something different, but I saw that pretty close to game time. And on paper, this Iowa team is one that Indiana should be able to beat. But the reason I say I think it's a little bit unsurprising is the style of basketball that Iowa plays, and that's one that Indiana has really struggled with. In recent seasons. Indiana, you look back to some of these blowout losses that they've had under Mike Woodson, and it's been a lot of teams that can play, lineups with a lot of guards, a lot of shooters, that are high-scoring teams that can play fast-paced, and Indiana struggles with them, and that's really what I think happened again tonight. Indiana started this game, got off to a really slow start, which is kind of becoming a concerning theme for this team. Iowa jumped out to a 15-4 lead in the first 6 minutes, and I think at the under 16 timeout, Indiana had 6 or 7 turnovers. A few of those were Umar Ballo getting the ball knocked out of his hands. Trey Galloway tried to force a few passes that led to turnovers. Miles Rice made some careless passes, and turnovers. If you wanted to pinpoint it on one thing, that's one thing you can pin this game on. Indiana had 16 turnovers. 12 of those came in the first half, so they actually cut it down in the second half. But in the second half, they only shot 32% from the field. But Iowa scored 24 points off of Indiana's 16 turnovers. And, we were talking to Miles Rice after the game and, asked him just about the defensive performance. And he kind of credited Indiana's defensive struggles to just the way that it set itself up so poorly defensively with those turnovers. You hear the cliche defense turns into offense from coaches and players a lot. And I think Iowa would be right in saying that that's kind of what happened tonight. But Indiana actually kind of, after a really sluggish start, responded in a pretty, meaningful way, at least at the time it felt like. They went on a 13-0 run, took a 26-23 lead at the 7:17 mark of the first half. But then Iowa closed the half on a run and went up 43-33 at halftime. And then in the second half, Indiana really was not competitive whatsoever. Peyton Sanford really got hot in the second half. He's Iowa's senior guard that has hurt Indiana in the past. He finished with a game high 23 points on 7 for 12 shooting, made 4 of 9 3-point attempts. He kind of took over the second half, where in the first half it was Josh Dix for Iowa. I think he made his first 3-point attempts to kind of give Iowa some of that cushion in the first half. They were kind of the two, big 3-point threats. They combined for eight of Iowa's 11. Owen Freeman played well in this game, 16 points and 12 rebounds, especially given that he had a tough matchup against Indiana's Umar Ballo, who had been playing his best basketball in an Indiana uniform going into this game. Ballo finished with 10 points, 13 rebounds, which, doesn't look too bad in that respect, but the 4 turnovers, I think 3 of them came really early, were very costly for Indiana. And, I think when you look at this game kind of in the big picture, it sort of felt like Indiana had been figuring some things out in its 5-game winning streak going into this game. I know it didn't come against particularly strong opponents with Rutgers, Penn State, USC, Chattanooga, and Winthrop. But, they were winning those games by pretty wide margins. And it sort of felt like this team with a lot of new players was figuring itself out. But at the same time, it feels like this loss kind of dismisses a lot of the progress that it made because Indiana went back to some of the ways that it had lost early in the season to Louisville, to Gonzaga. And, even if you want to extend this to past seasons under Mike Woodson, Woodson is now 0-3 at Carver Hawkeye Arena. I think 1-5 against Iowa, with the only win coming last season. And the road gets more difficult moving forward. Indiana hosts Illinois on Tuesday, and kind of surprisingly, Illinois lost at home to USC today, although they didn't have their star freshman point guard. But I think Indiana's next 10 games are against quad one opponents. So it's a challenging road ahead, and this loss definitely does not do much to inspire any confidence in this team moving forward, other than the fact that Indiana returns home, where it has certainly played better than on the road under Mike Woodson historically. So yeah, sort of just to wrap this up, we don't want to keep these too long. I'll try to aim for 5 or 10 minutes with these post-game videos. But the turnovers were a massive issue. The three-point defense was a massive issue. Iowa finished 11 for 24. Just really a concerning performance, especially when you look at this Iowa team who is great offensively, but it is not a strong defensive team. And Indiana only finished with 60 points, which is its worst of the season. It had 61 against Louisville. So, lowest scoring game of the season, and a game that Indiana did not play well defensively either. So, like I said, Indiana returns to the comfort of Assembly Hall on Tuesday against Illinois. They'll be 13-4 overall, 4-2 heading into that game, as we kind of approach the heat of Big Ten play now that we're in mid-January. So let me know what you guys think about these post-game reaction videos. I think it'll be kind of a nice way to switch up our post-game coverage and sort of share some more personal thoughts on the game and sort of the big picture. So like I said, I've been Jack Ankony with Indiana Hoosiers on SI, and we'll talk to you Tuesday after Indiana's game against Illinois. See ya.